welcome to this week's video. Check it out. So last week we were installing the power pole and my brother Tim came out and wired that for me, and in return I went and helped him on his house that he's building. So that was fun. So now all that's left to do is to put in the ground rods for the electric pole, and then I can have it inspected. We can get the power hooked up. So we're making progress out here. Okay, so the code for this area requires 2 ground rods. I believe the one has to go as close to the post as possible, and then the other one is 6 feet from there. So I know that there's rock down here, a few feet down, so I think what I'm going to do is just angle them down under the driveway because the hill slopes that way. So I'm hoping if I just angle them, I'll be able to avoid the rock. But if not, I might have to bend them and get them to turn as they're going in. Alright folks, so after much ado and pounding and beating and pounding and beating, I've got the ground rods in the ground. But now it's time to install the ground rod, and then she'll be ready for inspection. So I took my acorn clamp, back the screw out all the way, put the first one in there, run it up from the back like so, pull the excess through. Alright, got that one clamped down, just got to tighten this one up. There we have it. Ground rod installed. Meter box is done. Weatherhead installed. And I think it's ready for inspection. I might need to cut a little bit of the post off at the top though. I think the requirement is a foot above the weatherhead, but I don't know if that's like a requirement. That might just be if it's at the minimum height, which is 13 feet for the post and 12 feet for the weatherhead. So, but I went further than that because I wanted my wire to be higher up there where it goes past my storage shed. I managed to get that big old stump out. My goodness. It's probably about the biggest one I've got out yet, but we got her done. Alright folks, so got the big stump out, and I piled a bunch of the brush and roots and stuff, and the other stumps, some smaller stumps further back. So now I'm going to fill in this, bring in some more dirt, kind of smooth this out real nice. And then, if I have time, I think I'm going to start building the storage shed. First I'll have to spread a little bit more gravel, and then I can start laying out the runners and getting the floor joists set in there and stuff, so maybe get it leveled up a little bit. Anyway, let's get this dirt going over here. guys, so I got the pad pretty much ready to go. I put some more gravel down and ran back and forth across it with my truck to kind of pack it down. And I've got two 16-foot 2x6s laid out. It's going to be 16 wide, 20 feet long. So I'm going to go ahead and put some blocks down, kind of where I think the runners were going to sit. I think we're going to have one close to the outside and then two in the middle, about 6 feet outside to outside. So the place I got these runners from didn't have 20-footers, so I'm having to splice 16s and 12s together. So I'll just cut them to make 20s and then splice them together with some big screws and some 2x6s, I guess. But as you can see, these runners are really cool. They've got notches cut out for your floor joists, so you can space them several different spacings, I reckon, and they sit right in there and it helps hold everything together better. So I'm excited to get this shed built. Alright, so I kind of got my blocks and runners laid out roughly. Unfortunately, I'm out of time for today, so I got to run. But hopefully tomorrow I can maybe get this floor framed up. So see you then. Alright folks, today we are working on building the shed, finally. Got my good buddy Jacob here. He's going to help me frame it up. So we're going to get started here. Yeah. Alright, so I was not able to get full length runners. So what we have to do is cut 4 feet off of 2 of the 12-footers and splice that onto the 16-footers. And then the remainder, 8 feet, we'll splice onto a 12-footer for the middle ones. Okay, what we're doing now is we've got all the runners spliced together, and we're going to lay out a couple of these floor joists and cut them to the right length and mark them for spacing on the runners. So on the end ones, we're running the joists a foot past the end, and then in the center we're going to go 6 foot to the outside to outside of the center runners. That way this thing can be loaded up onto a shed trailer and moved if it ever so desires. Yeah, that guide likes to come loose. So I'm cutting these 3 inches less than 16 feet because we're going to put 2x6 on the outside still for our rim board. That way, with the rim board on each side, it'll come to 16 feet to the outside. Alright, so I found the center and then went out 3 foot on either side of that. So that's the mark for the outside edge of my inside runners. So a lot of these runners are very twisted, so we're having to use some big GRKs to get them untwisted. That one didn't quite untwist, but now we're gonna get it square here. 25'4". All right, so we got our end joists set on both ends. Now I'm running a string along this side. We're gonna put in all the floor joists and just run up to the string, and then we'll snap a line on the other side and just cut them all straight off. That way we get them nice and straight. Alright, we got all the floor joists set. These things are really slick. They've got these cutouts for your floor joists, and then we ran ours on 2 foot. And all you got to do is just nail them or screw them down into the runner, and it's super nice for building a shed like this. I got these runners from a place that builds these. There's a guy that I know that has a shop that builds storage sheds, and so I was able to get these from him. And let me tell you, they are super nice. We got this end nice and straight with the string. Then we snapped a line over there. So now I'll have to cut those all off. Alright, so we got the main floor joists and everything framed pretty much. We still have to put rim boards around both sides. They go on the ends of the joists there. It's pretty warm, so we're going to take a break, get back to work in a little bit. I want to show you kind of why we did this the way that we did. So with these runners here, they come with a cutout on the end where you can put a 2x6 flat and a 2x6 on edge for your floor joists and your outside rim board. But the reason we put one flat in here is because the guys that come and move these buildings, they have like this little mini forklift that's got like hooks on the end of its forks, so they can come in here and hook onto this 2x here and lift up and use that to drag the shed or pull it. A lot of times they'll put some wheels underneath the one end, and they'll come in here, pick it up with this end and move it that way. So that's why we did that, in case this ever needs to be moved. And like I said, also Daniel, the guy I bought the property from over here, he actually hauls these storage sheds for a living. So I asked him about the spacing on the runners, and he said 6 feet to outside on your center runners. So that's what we did. Hopefully that'll work out if we ever need to move this thing.
I can, but I gotta run over there.
Okay. A little bit more. Well, we were just working here getting this floor framed up. We're trying to level it up at this point, and we look over and there's a deer down there just eating acorns. So that's pretty cool. So what we did here is we basically just put a string across the center ones and measured how much shimming we need, because it's got a sag in the middle. So my thought is we'll shim up the middle, and then once we frame the walls on the outside, the weight of all that will push the outside back down, even if it's floating a little bit right now. So getting ready to put our last shim in here. There we go. Alright folks, here's a little update on our progress. We've got the insulation all on the floor now, and we're about ready to put the 3/4 inch tongue groove subfloor on top of this. And the way we did this is we made it so that all of our end joints came out at different spots than the plywood, and then we'll put our flooring down so that it's offset from these splices as well. So hopefully none of our splices in the plywood or the foam will be at the same spot. Now we're applying some zip tape in the foam. Alright guys, so we got the subfloor on, and wouldn't you know it, my bro Tim and my dad showed up to help me frame. So we're going to get some walls framed up here. Alright, we just about got this first wall framed up and ready to set up. Alright, second wall is framed up and ready to go. And there it is, folks. We got 2 walls up. How about that?